Morning, boys and girls. We are going to be going over the answers to the science study guide that you did on Bright Thinker. So this is going to be a slightly different format, but the exact same questions that were on the Bright Thinker study guide so that you know what you got wrong, if you got anything wrong. It's possible that there were some things that maybe were just slightly misspelled or mistyped, and that's why it's wrong. So this is going to just let you know how to be better prepared for the test, which is on Friday. So here are the answers to the study guide. Once again, this looks different because this is the paper form and yours on Bright Thinker was a matching section for this part. Now, to group and to study the relationship between organisms is to classify, is the word we use for that. Now, the mammal that lives in its mother's pouch after born is a marsupial. Most mammals do not continue in that very immature stage, but a marsupial does. An animal without a backbone is an invertebrate. A unique feature about something is a characteristic. These glands produce milk for the live young. Those are mammary glands. Those are the ones that mammals have in order to give their babies milk to continue to help them grow. Father of modern taxonomy is Linnaeus, or Carl Linnaeus, is what I put in the Bright Thinker assignment. He is the one who came up with how to classify all organisms, plants and animals. An animal that is able to maintain its body temperature is a warm-blooded animal. Warm-blooded means that it keeps or maintains the same body temperature. Chemical changes in the body that provide energy are metabolic. So we learned about that with the birds and mammals specifically because they need to, as warm-blooded animals, have a high metabolic rate in order to keep their blood warm and have energy, like for birds, to be able to fly. A living thing is called an organism. That's all living things. An animal that has a body temperature that changes with its environment is cold-blooded. An unborn or unhatched offspring is called an embryo. Now, an internal skeleton that all vertebrates have is called an endoskeleton, endo with an E. Now, an animal with a backbone is a vertebrate. A hard outer covering that protects an animal's soft parts is called an exoskeleton. So endoskeleton, exoskeleton. So exoskeleton is only for the invertebrates. We talked about that just a little bit at the beginning, but we've mainly been talking about vertebrates with endoskeletons. The grouping of organisms is called classification. Classifying organisms is called taxonomy. So be careful with these, and I'd say it would be good to maybe even make a little index card like we do for roots of some of these that are similar, like to group and study the relationship between organisms. That is to classify. This one's kind of similar. The grouping of organisms is called classification. This is kind of a part of speech difference. Classification has a suffix. It's a noun. That's the action, or that's the actual grouping of organisms, versus to classify is the action of grouping and studying the relationship between different organisms. And then classifying organisms. So once you've really classified those organisms, you put them into different groups and study the relationship, like thinking through what makes a mammal, what are the characteristics? And then once you've studied that and put them into even smaller groups within the classification of mammals, that's taxonomy, as you're putting them into different groups. Invertebrates that have legs with joints and sense organs are called arthropods. That's the last part of the matching section in your science study guide. This next part is fill in the blank for you as well in Bright Thinker. Fish are cold-blooded. They breathe with gills, and most fish lay eggs. Should have all of this in your notes. Reptiles were the first vertebrates to become truly terrestrial animals, meaning they live on land. Reptile eggs are surrounded by a membrane for protection and water retention. Birds have a high metabolic rate, which allows them to travel for long distances. The eggs of birds have a yolk, and a hard calcified shell. So mammals are warm-blooded. Mammals give birth to live young. Amphibians go through a process called metamorphosis. Now, meta means change, morph means shape, and osis means condition. All right, for the life cycle of a frog, and I added a few extra words in your Bright Thinker assignment. A mother frog lays her eggs. That's what she lays. And I think I had you include this for the Bright Thinker assignment. Tadpoles are what hatch from the eggs. The tadpole grows hind legs as the next part. So they were almost like a fish before, then they grow their hind legs. Then the second step is that tadpoles grow front legs. And finally, the tadpole becomes an adult frog or a frog. Next question. 97% of the animal kingdom is made up of invertebrates. So we study just 3% of the animal kingdom, the vertebrates of mammals, birds, reptiles, amphibians, and fish. 97% of the animals, though, are invertebrates, especially a lot of very, very small invertebrates. So finally, these are up to you to write. You write in a complete sentence 3 things you learned about mammals. You could write, for example, that some mammals actually lay eggs. Those are called monotremes. That wasn't in the study guide before, but that's an interesting fact about mammals. You might write about that bats are considered mammals because even though they fly, they have 4 limbs and they're covered in hair. We spent some time talking about that. And whales also even have 4 limbs and hair, so they're mammals. Also, it has lungs. All mammals should have lungs. So that is why whales are considered mammals as well. You might talk about with mammals that they have an endoskeleton. You could write like those marsupials that some live in a pouch after they're born. For your favorite animal group and why, choose any of these ones down here: birds, mammals, reptiles, amphibians, and fish. Say which one is your favorite in general and why it's your favorite. And maybe also talk about some specific animals from that group that you like. Okay, that is your whole study guide. So if there is any part of this that you didn't have in your notes, feel free to pause it, run back and pause at a certain part and fill it in. All of your questions for the test are going to be based off of these exact same questions. Some of them will look a little bit different, but they're the same questions for the most part. So that test is on Friday. You've got 2 days really to review because of our map testing. So Wednesday and Thursday will be some review day. If you want to make a little index card to study some of these, that would be a really great way to prepare for the test. And that test, we'll do on Friday. And I hope that you enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.